and welcome into another episode of the Make It a Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast. I'm your host, Mac Moore, here again with Ethan Raby. How's it going, Ethan?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am good.
I never ask you. Ask you.
That's true. Nobody ever asks me. They don't care. I'm just the host. I just facilitate everything, do all the producing, all the editing. But I'm just here.
I feel like every time we start a show, I feel like going into it, you and I have good banter, good conversation. Then you're like, "How you doing?" And I freeze up.
It's true.
I never know.
It's true. I mean,
I should get on the spot.
I should get rid of it. I think I tried it once where I did like a whole little intro, and then you guys called me out. Or no, you know what? You guys didn't do it. It was my boy Bobby on the NFL show. I did a whole thing, and he's just like, "Oh, I thought you already go on like 10-minute rants, but this time you did 10 minutes without even saying I'm in the room." And I was like, "My bad, man. I was trying to do the whole. It really wasn't 10 minutes. It was 2 minutes, but yeah, I didn't do it with the how's it going, Bobby." And he was just like, "I thought you just were gonna do the whole thing yourself. Thought it was gonna be a monologue. Thought you just brought me here to like watch some weird like kink you have." So yeah, that's definitely happened. And
cuckold radio.
I gotta maybe I just have to write one good intro and then tell people I'm gonna do it so that they're ready for it. But yeah, that might be one way to go in. We could just immediately jump in and just be like, "What's your best match of Full Gear?"
I think you need pyro.
Do you need pyro? Everybody needs pyro.
Yeah.
Do you think it works in the audio format?
I think there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, we got to find out.
Only one way to find out, brother.
All right, so like I said, we're here to talk about Full Gear. If we want to start with just our picks, we got burned. We were awful. I won by like 2, I think. We only had 2 different ones, and I got them both.
Track as I was watching through. And,
we got our ass kicked. We were pretty far into the night before we got anything right. I mean, obviously, I got the pre-show with Britt Baker winning.
I was just being contrarian.
Thereafter,
all I had.
Thereafter, we were both bad for a really long time. We'll talk about each one on there, but I think in the end, we were under 50%, and I won by 2 just from the only 2 that we split on. So
it's fine. Just straight. It's like when like fantasy football analysts get everything wrong. They don't worry about it. They don't address I was wrong. We only have
everybody
so
gets
much
a bad
you can
week.
predict. Yeah, you get it. There's no way we know this. It's just our best insight at the time.
It was also a very strange pay-per-view. I think the things that we got wrong, it was interesting, the choices they made, and some of them looked a little weird after we saw what happened on Dynamite, but that's something we'll talk about in a bit. The one thing for me is this was definitely a top-heavy card, which I feel like is just what happens with a lot of AEW right now.
Sure.
Is whatever's at the end, but also they didn't put the Young Bucks at the end, and it was still top-heavy anyways. There was 2 matches definitely that stood out and make that pretty obvious at the beginning. John Moxley, Kenny Omega with the lights out match, and then Chris Jericho facing off with Cody.
Yeah.
Those 2 matches definitely stole the show, and I'll just give you the choice right now. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Let's do lights out. I really enjoyed both, but I think especially after talking about how you were saying, before this match, Kenny Omega hadn't had one of those show stealer matches in AEW, and I thought that it stole the show. I don't think that the use of hardcore wrestling was too gimmicky, which I know is being criticized for this week.
Yeah.
I think when you have that level of a feud, you're gonna have a lot of really gnarly shit, and they were very creative about it. It was like watching a Japanese death match meets American indie wrestling.
Yeah, and the idea that it was too gimmicky or whatever, and I saw ones that were really funny. It was like, I don't think you should bust that out unless it's like, the end of a feud or this and that and whatever. It's like, this is a year-long feud that almost got taken away from us due to a real-life injury with John Moxley. So, you can go all out. And I think there is an argument, and I know a lot of it was led by Dave Meltzer talking about it, wanting it to be more of a fight, a street fight, than it be a death match. And I think there's some arguments there. I think it with a little bit less of kind of the spot focus of all of the gimmicks they brought out, it probably could have been better. Probably could have been more emotional. Also, it was fun as hell, and sometimes that's more important.
Yeah,
and I think especially with Kenny, who is going to ham it up a lot, and I think if I'm talking about some of the stuff we've seen that has been part of the issue with his transition to AEW is now you are going with just a purely American audience. And when he was in New Japan, the style benefited from Kenny being a little cartoonish, a little over the top. And you kind of have to reel that back in a little bit. I don't think he has yet. This is a match where he doesn't need to.
Yeah, it's perfect. And it's also, it fits into, him entering Moxley's world. This is a very, Moxley, centered match. You could have seen, not exactly this match, but a lot of elements of this between Jon Moxley and another competitor. But I don't think you would be as likely to see it between Kenny Omega and another competitor. You have the real, crazy, Jon Moxley that everyone's kind of wanted to see. And then, you bring out a mousetrap board and you bring out broken glass and the barbed wire spider web and going through the set, all of this shit that was incredibly entertaining, incredibly fun to watch. And I think that it was, I would say it's my match of the night. It's not necessarily the story of the night. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Cody and Jericho as match of the night.
And I'm not going to argue against you.
And I wouldn't argue against yours. Like this one was definitely entertaining, definitely a great way to finish the evening. If I was, we talk about the nitpicks. If I was to get rid of anything, it would be the mousetrap board, just because it's also, they were bullshit mousetraps. And just the idea that it was also supposed to be, I guess, Kenny, he's the one who pulled it out, so I have to assume he's the one who, decided to glue mouse traps onto this thin plywood board. I think of all of the things, that's the most obnoxious. All the other stuff is, it's fair. I think it was used well, especially the glass. That's just such a great spot. And even just
poor referee. Your poor referee.
Even just that it was a callback was great.
Yeah.
But then when it's, a submission move where Jon Moxley is crawling through the glass to get to a rope in a match that doesn't have a rope break. And it was just such a great moment. It helped build up Moxley so much. When we talk about the story that you can tell in the ring, the way to build up a character, it did so much for him. And then, by the time it's done, if you want to go in being a pessimist or just a hater and be mad at it, there's a lot of things where you can say, well, this isn't the type of match that's making you feel like it's real or whatever. But it's real that these guys are putting themselves through hell, and the way they use the barbed wire and all this. And like you said, this is something we expected from Moxley. We've already seen it with Joey Janela, but it is on a whole different level when it's Kenny Omega on the other side of the ring. And I think it was great. It was best match so far for Kenny Omega in AEW. I think it's really good for both competitors. The way Moxley sold it in the promo on Dynamite was also really good. Going forward, I'm excited to see what they do. Whether, the idea that this needed to be a blow-off match if you pull out all these things, bullshit. I'm excited for whatever the next match is with them. Yeah. Also, it doesn't have to be the next match, and it looks like it isn't. Moxley challenges anybody to be crazy enough to face him, and the craziest person that we know, aside from Moxley,
Darby Allin,
steps right in.
And I don't know what the fuck, that just to me seems a little irresponsible, but very entertaining. It's going to be a fucking guillotine match. What are these psychopaths going to do? It's going to be great.
It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So I loved it. Any sort of negativity, I'm not even going to say I don't get it. I sure. But also just, go and, have a beer somewhere, stop watching wrestling for a little while, let us have some fun. It was a lights out match. The show was over. Didn't even count. I mean, I feel bad for the security that had to still be there. And luckily, Jon Moxley and Omega were nice enough to help him tear down the ring. So, that was really good.
Yeah. And, I was like, oh, man, that was a great world title match. I guess I'm understanding, but wait, there's another. Oh, wow. This isn't in the record books. I didn't know this was going to happen. Shocked ending.
I couldn't believe it. So the match before that, though, is the one I would give match of the night.
Sure.
Jericho, Cody. This is another one when, we're putting the short list of things we think can steal the show. Cody has just been so good at telling these stories in the ring. Little worried about what Chris Jericho could do, just how much he can go. But they found a way where there was a lot of outside interference, a lot of little things that aren't based on what these two can do in the ring. It's all the stuff happening. You got, Hager on the outside, you got MJF on the outside, and then obviously Cody's flip out. I still can't figure out whether he meant to do it. Everybody says that it just looked like it really happened, but also, JR is trying to say that it's a rib injury as well as the face, and there's just so much going on. And it's like Cody, even when things go bad, Cody turns it into fucking gold.
Yeah, the dive to the outside where is it still hard way if you're intentionally slamming your face into diamond plate? Or is it just the most creative blade job I've ever seen?
Yeah.
Like there's oh god. It's great. Great stuff. Which kind of brings me to another little side note, the set. I love the set.
Yeah.
Good set. I'm always a fan of that elevated ramp that just is like a runway. And it was a perfect setup for a couple of elements throughout the night too. So but yeah, the peril that Cody puts himself in to tell great stories is something that I hope, lasts longer than a lot of other people who've done the same thing. It's unsafe to a point, but I think he knows what he's doing. He knows how to mostly take care of himself to the point where this isn't going to be career shortening, while he can still, a point you've made multiple times and we've made on the show multiple times. He's currently the best storyteller in wrestling.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go back to just a month of any Attitude Era guy having to go through, a dozen steel chair shots into one night, nothing Cody's done is on that level anyway. So
I'm talking about the modern era, not the savage 90s.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. Is like if they survive that, I think with what Cody's doing, it's they're more flesh wounds. Nothing was worse than what Omega and Moxley did right afterwards. So I think Cody's finding a way to use it in moderation, and it's working really, really well. And obviously at the end there, I didn't expect Cody to lose. We both picked Cody to win that match just based on the story that's going forward. And how do you get out of I'm never challenging for the belt again if I lose this early into AEW, this early into Cody's potential run? It seemed like there was no way out. Instead, they found a way, and they found the best way possible with Jericho using the Lion Tamer on Cody as he's about to break his freaking neck, and Cody's already broken. JR's did a good job of selling the letting us know that there's a rib injury on top of his face. And luckily, Jericho's smart enough, like, I'm going to break your face right now. Your face is the one bleeding. I'm smashing it into the canvas right now. And to have that moment, have MJF reach for the towel, throw it in, and I know everybody on the internet just wanted to talk about how predictable it was. First of all, then they're tweeting out like, oh, it's weird that he didn't turn right after throwing that. I guess we'll find out later. And then like he turns like predictable. And like, you guys need to shut the hell up because MJF, more so than anything, sold that so well.
Oh, yeah.
I was hook, line, and sinker in for it. Like, obviously, we know the turn's happening at some point, but we don't know when because when he's having that, he's in the ring and it's like he's so contrite about screwing up Cody's match.
Yeah.
And, like, in that moment, I felt like Cody was going to hit MJF.
Yeah.
Like, you have to sit there. You have no idea which is going to happen. And the moment he gets up and they have the handshake and it's like, no, we're cool. Then to kick him in the balls at the right moment.
Perfect.
MJF nailed it, and he continued that fire through the promo on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
And he is the best heel in the business. That's not even a conversation we have to have.
No, easy. And I agree. It's eventually he's going to turn, like you said, but the timing of it is important because he did sell. It wasn't this awkward, why is there a heel tagging along with this babyface crew? It was this desperate heel who's trying to elevate himself. It was very on the surface, and they could have drawn that out longer, and that would have been entertaining to kind of see that transition. But to kind of pull it this early, I don't think is predictable. And the like you said, the sell at the end of him in tears, and JR, give JR some props, really selling it too.
He's good in the top moments. He still needs to figure out the rest of the roster, but
he does. But in that moment and in that turn, that was some classic JR just commentary. That was excellent. I was gonna say JR shit, but it wasn't shit. It was gold.
There is nobody else in the world, even Muro Ranello, who has the argument for the best play-by-play guy in wrestling right now, couldn't have sold that moment as well JR did. JR's the only guy.
Oh God, little bastard. Oh God.
And that, like you talked about with him being kind of like hanging on and trying to find a way to elevate his career. It's not even just that. It's that Cody was a heel going into this promotion. The fans turned him into a face organically and quickly. And at that moment, MJF is at his side. And so when you have that sort of, heel sticking with a face, it totally worked. I mean, even Cody's wife is a heel right now.
Yeah.
Like being a manager for Awesome Kong. So the way they played it, they've kept it as real as possible where it's like, okay, I had a whole thread about this that I put on Twitter, and it's basically the best version of what they tried to do with Sting Luger back in the 90s. Like, and that only ended with making, Sting look like an idiot and Luger was worthless, so it didn't matter. In this case, you had a moment that seemed real. It did seem like MJF is here. I'm protecting Cody, and you don't have to look at Cody like a guy. Cody's not running around and doing good deeds and saving orphans. So the heel can stick with him even in the moment where the fans have decided he's a good guy. MJF doesn't be like, oh, the fans are cheering this guy? I don't like you anymore, Cody. Like, that would be stupid. Instead, they played it in a way that made sense for all of the characters involved. You get to this moment that the turn was just so good. It was a moment, if you are sitting there and all you can think is, this is predictable and I don't like it, stop watching wrestling. Or figure it out. You're watching wrestling wrong. So that's all I have to say for that. Like, that moment was so good, and if it ends with you being like, nah, the booking, like, wrestling's not about the booking. Enjoy the moments. Like,
no, it's great. And character-wise alone, before this, MJF, best heel in the business. Now this just elevates his purpose. He's a main event contender. This is something where he is going to be in main event feuds with Cody Rhodes. And the story that those guys are going to tell is going to blow everybody away. It's going to be fantastic.
How'd you feel about Jake Hager? His role as the bodyguard. Yeah, Hagar. We're going Hagar.
Jake.
Jake.
Jerk. Like Jerk Hager.
I think he did good. I think he's fitting the role pretty good. And then now,
no, he was good.
Now with MJF involved, now it's kind of like, I thought Hager was the one who was kind of like on the outside, like doesn't look right. But if MJF's going to be part of the inner circle, now that fits with Chris Jericho. Now we got maybe Sammy Guevara still fits, and then I didn't realize Santana and Ortiz were P&P. I don't know when that happened, but apparently everybody knew it before me.
I never watched Impact, so. Wherever
well, no, I mean now they're called P&P.
Oh, that's
it's
a new
like,
thing.
Yeah,
okay.
It's
Proud and Powerful.
Yeah,
I mean, all right.
Didn't know that
that's
until
fine.
now.
That's fine.
That's cool.
I'm actually digging everything that Sammy Guevara is doing lately too. Since the turn into the inner circle, just being like this, he's just kind of a prissy little Justin Bieber wannabe. Like, he's awesome. He's nailing it.
He's a slimy little douchebag.
He's just a little douchebag, but he can go. So I love it.
Yeah, it's working well. I'm interesting to see how they do. I don't want them to just keep expanding the inner circle. It defeats the purpose of being called the inner circle. So we'll see what happens. But MJF is a good addition.
Yeah, I did enjoy the callback on Dynamite to promo with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, just calling each other out and then turn So. I'm not going to quote it verbatim, but what I'm talking about. It was good. And I thought that it was a very good good nod to a good point in Jericho's WWE run. And, that's something that worked. And it worked on AEW a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the only miss here was Cody Rhodes trying to power slam Chris Jericho. And honestly, I don't even know who screwed it up.
That's fine.
It was on Dynamite, so it's fine. It's fine. TV. Shit happens.
They got it back. That's fine.
Yeah, he got the second one on MJF. That's the only one that mattered.
Well, and then he got another. He got the third attempt, successful one on Jericho.
So that works. Going down the list, though, now that we've gotten past those, now we're getting into a little bit thinner territory when we talk about, did you like Full Gear? I saw people saying it was so great. It was so great. I don't know how I felt about it until those two matches. Before that, I had a few problems. And one of them will start just this women's championship match, which was actually, by the time it's done, a pretty good match. But that crowd was dead.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I noticed that, and I really enjoyed that match, and I really enjoyed the finish. All the way through. That match kept my attention, so I don't know what the lack of fire was there. But
it feels like, one, Riho just starts out a match, and for whatever reason, maybe it's a lot of the stuff we talked about last week where AEW's just not done a great job of introducing these characters, not telling me things like, not only is it Sakura as the vet and Riho as the young gun, it was mentor.
Well, they did tell you that.
No, I was like, we talked about it last week, and it was like, oh yeah, I missed this part.
Right.
But they say it, but it's like already too late. Like, if that is the case, if it's a mentor thing, yeah, you got to play that up in a way that makes this more exciting, to make it where it's not dead for the first 10 minutes. And Riho does so much cool stuff in the ring that by the time it's done, she sucks people in, gets the fans going, and then there's usually some sort of finish that's just, it's uneven, and it doesn't put that like just stamp on the finish, and that leaves it in just a weird spot. And part of it is trying to build up these other characters. It's like I don't know how I feel about Awesome Kong right now, like cutting hair off people.
I think I'm into it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. I like the look. I like the look of Brandy Rhodes pulling it off, just walking out from behind Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong is intimidating. We'll see how she goes in the ring, once they start giving her matches. But, definitely give her let her do the squash treatment to as many individuals as possible before we get to too many real matches with her.
The cast of Glow.
All of them. Every single one. So, yeah, I think I think the women's division can rebound. It's just when you have a championship match like that where it just underwhelming for whatever reason in terms of the fans being into it, like that's not good. And then for the other match on the card, and I messaged this to you guys, I don't know which one of Britt Baker, Bea Priestley can't wrestle, but one of them can't wrestle, or both. I don't know, but they started that match. It was awful. They rebounded to be below average, and by the time it's done, now I'm not sure either one can be a true competitor that I could watch and take seriously. Obviously, people can get better, and Britt Baker's fairly young. I don't know how old Bea Priestley is.
She's pretty young too. I think her and Will Ospreay are still together. You think they work together, train together. But
Britt Baker's got Adam Cole, so you would think.
And honestly, Adam Cole versus Will Ospreay could be the best match ever. I don't know. So I don't know.
Good intergender
work
match.
With them. Work with your partners.
So it's just strange to me that those are the only two on the card. The biggest thing being Awesome Kong coming out to cut Bea Priestley's hair. Once again, not against it, but it does seem that is still the weakness of AEW right now, and I don't think they improved it even with once again, it's not that the Rio and Segura match was bad, but I don't think it did enough to make up for how lackluster the women's division has been so far.
I think there could have been a follow up after that match to sort of maybe lead into a future storyline that's a little more interesting. But I don't know. I mean, I do have all the faith in the world that they will get there. It's just a matter of when. So just noting progress. All
right. So I wanted to knock out any of the negatives. So we'll just really quickly. Sean Spears, Joey Janela, 11-minute match without any gimmicks, not any crazy thing.
Yeah,
it just seemed like once again the crowd was dead, and you need something to build up a character. With Sean Spears, he got that initial heat from hitting Cody, and since then people just haven't cared, and that's the worst thing you can have going in wrestling.
It reminds me, and the example I'm about to note is actually a better example of this, but the chairman gimmick and coming out and carrying a chair is like it is. Reminiscent of, so after Nia Jax busts Becky Lynch's face and she's coming out and she's doing the whole like showing her fist thing. It was the first week after it made sense, but then she just kind of kept doing it as far as like, oh yeah, I did that one thing a while ago. And
it's a good comparison.
And the fact that this is the entire gimmick for Sean Spears is like, hey, remember that fucked up chair shot? Yeah, remember? Like he's got a case of the fucking member berries, and I'm wondering how long he can make this last, or is this just going to be a thing that he's just the dude with the chair?
Yeah, I mean, if he also was using the chair at appropriate times, that would probably help. Like the idea that it's just his entrance.
Yeah, and
then also it doesn't help that his outfit is dumb as shit. If he didn't look as awkward as he does with the weird like half hoodie, like no sleeve, like glittery hoodie. He could make it work. I think the name is good.
The name is cool. And that's the thing is, even without the gimmick of holding up the chair, the name still makes sense because of that one. I mean, that can last.
It works on multiple levels. That's a lasting
image, and that works. Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about when you're going up against Cody management, and he's the one saying, "I'm the chairman." It works.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, to his gear, he does kind of look like template number 5 for Create a Wrestler.
No doubt.
In 2K.
No doubt. Even the hair.
The hair is a big factor.
Like all of it. It's not going well. And then even with, Tully Blanchard finally got pretty good action in attacking Joey Janela when they did the pile driver. So they used that.
I'm liking the use of Tully. I enjoy that.
It just at that point the match was already not getting over, and so that was cool, but it didn't help make that work. So that was the last one of like truly negative. The rest of it we're gonna talk about. Paige and Pac. This was one that in the moment I was ready to come in and be like, yes, they delivered. Could it have been more? Is there still that worry that you brought up last week that maybe Hangman Page is missing something? It's possible because it was just such a good match, and you're still at the end. And you're like, this didn't steal the show, but it was successful. It was efficient.
It was very for the story that they're I think are trying to tell with these two. I think it was perfect. I think that it was very like. It was a perfect example of that back and forth match where no one was on offense for more than 25 seconds at a time. I really enjoyed this match, and I enjoyed the commentary along with it, and I enjoyed the outcome. My only drawback of it is that they ran it back on Wednesday.
Yep.
Do you want to take over here? You want to jump in on that?
I mean, it was the only problem was Paige beats Pac, and only for Pac to I did 50-50 there on purpose on Wednesday just to have him lose that quickly. We talk about this all the time. 50-50 booking at its finest. People are always asking, why can't WWE build stars? Well, this is why. 50-50 booking.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I told you, this was the match that I watched. So I watched Dynamite mostly last night, and then I had to watch some before I came here to record, and something's got to give, and you know what it was this match on Dynamite, because I just watched it.
Yeah, it's part of it is to run it back and to have it be Pac getting the win, but even then, even if Paige would have won again, it's like this is a WWE thing that fans have brought up. If you're going to consistently say we're the ones who give the fans what they want, it's like we have made it very clear for a very long time that running a pay-per-view match back the next night is asinine. In this case, you have the program on Wednesday. It's not you got 4 days in between. No, it's like it's the same week. Stop it. Like, don't run the match back.
Also, I watched Full Gear late, and I watched it on Tuesday.
So you watched them really close together.
It was the exact same,
just like WWE.
It's just like WWE.
So yeah, no, that was problematic. Otherwise, in terms of the match that actually happened on the card for Full Gear, it worked well. They just ruined it. Next up, which of the tag matches you want to talk about first? You want to talk about AEW Championship or Young Bucks versus Proud and Powerful, which I just learned.
Let's go Championship. That's where the gold is, where the money is.
That's true. We got this one wrong. We very bad picking of this match. We decided to split who we were picking, and we still were both wrong. So that's good.
I went for the outside shot.
That's true.
I took the under.
In fairness, I screwed up because I thought I was picking the champion, but I've not paid enough attention. I did not realize SoCal Uncensored were actually the AEW tag champs. So
yeah,
mistake there on my part.
And looking back, it makes sense, and I really do actually enjoy the booking of what they've done with this storyline and with Scorpio Sky, because he's my favorite part of SoCal Uncensored. I'm still not really all in on SoCal Uncensored.
Yeah, it's a confusing gimmick. There's nothing there that's like
they're just like
makes sense.
Just like we're like kind of dicks from California. Like that's pretty much it, which is fine. But I mean, and they can all go, but Scorpion's guy can go at a higher level. He is, I think, a future singles star. I think that whenever they introduce an equivalent of your mid-card title, your Intercontinental, your U.S. Championship, I think Scorpio Sky should be one of the first guys in contention for that title.
Yeah, this is one where I think the match was like solid, but it was also it gave them 13 minutes and they gave the Young Bucks and Proud and Powerful 21 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a triple threat tag team match for the championship. Give it the time it needs. It still was a pretty good match. And I think the biggest negative was the end. The idea of having Christopher Daniels come back dressed up, as one of the Lucha Brothers, as this lights go out, whatever. It's like that's a dumb decision.
Yeah,
like it's a waste of a moment that like you didn't need. Like what advantage did he get from dressing up like them? Was he aware that they were going to get like attacked after the bell, so he had dressed up as the Lucha? Like none of it makes sense.
And also, with my biggest issue with this is that if it's a competitor who dresses the same every time, think Triple H dressing up as Goldust and blasting Kane with a flamethrower or whatever it was. But, Goldust looks the same every time he comes out. Certain people look the same every time they come out. Pentagon looks different every single time he comes out. So, you just had a fucking carbon copy of his gear made like day of. When
he's following him around. Like, he's like Jim from The Office following Dwight is basically how Christopher Daniels pulled this off.
He sees him walk out of the fucking tailor shop and walk in and goes, hey, make one in my size too, and don't ask any questions, and here's $10,000. All right. Sure. If you show me a video on Being the Elite of Christopher Daniels doing that, then A, I'm going to watch more Being the Elite, and B, I'm going to buy that end of the match spot. Otherwise, it's kind of silly. They did the same thing at, was it All In or All Out? I think it was All In with Jericho.
Yeah. Well, so, okay, Jericho wore just a gimp thing, which...
No, he dressed in Pentagon gear.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I thought he was just dressed in random thing to attack...
No, he was in Pentagon's like a copy of his gear. I think it was Omega.
To attack Page?
Omega.
No, I thought he attacked Hangman Page because he kicked him in the face, and Hangman had the stitch that he pulled out for the
I think that was later. I think at All In, I'm pretty sure it was.
Okay, so he did this twice. Jericho's just always dressing up as people.
Yeah, he did it in New Japan too.
So I think
dressed up as Bushi.
I think the Page one was just like a ski mask.
Yeah, that one wasn't. But I'm talking about All In when he jumped to Omega. He was in like the gold and black Pentagon gear, which again you just have that lying around.
Yeah, that is. I even think just kind of the dressing up is it's a little strange if you don't need it. Like Christopher Daniels is making a comeback from an injury. Just show up. Like that's all you have to do. So adding that extra and adding something that it can be used in the right situation, and you're basically just ruining that spot for the future. It didn't make much sense.
Now, if he had dressed up as somebody else from Pentagon's past, say he shows up as just fucking Prince Puma or something, all right, cool. That's a little bit of a mind fuck. That'd be fun. But I don't know. I think just dressing up as him and them doing
there's no benefit.
It was that kind of was the only thing that really took me out of it. The rest of that, I did enjoy the match. I enjoyed the finish. I am mad that I was wrong. That's it.
All right, so the other tag match, Young Bucks versus PNP. This one, they had time. It wasn't of the same work rate that we've seen from previous Young Bucks matches at pay-per-views, but PNP work a little differently, and they had some fun spots. I think this is the type of team that maybe on pay-per-views they're not going to be able to deliver on the level that, say, the Lucha Brothers would be matched up with the Young Bucks. But I think weekly, Wednesday on Dynamite having the attack in the back, I think especially the reactions. I don't know which one had the reaction to opening the bathroom door and it'd be Orange Cassidy sitting back there. But
I enjoyed that.
Their reactions, their promo going into this match, I didn't know how I felt about Santana Ortiz. We always bring up that we don't watch it on Impact. Their promo, I was like, I'm kind of psyched for this right now.
Yeah, I'm enjoying them. I feel like Ortiz still kind of weirds me out. And I'm still not entirely sure if I'm sold on some of the shit he does, but some of the shit he does, like threatening to stab Jake Hager's Bellator opponent. Okay, that's some solid work. It's a bit much, but
we didn't even bring that up. But we forgot about Jack Hager doing the best piece of wrestling he's ever done, which is getting DQ'd for a low blow in a freaking MMA fight.
Yeah, that's it. I'm never gonna doubt the man ever again. That's some solid healing right there.
That's the most. Live the gimmick, man.
He should.
Live the gimmick.
They honestly should have doubled down and had Inner Circle jump the cage and get fucking fined millions of dollars and have the cons pay it out, and that'd be some fucking publicity right there.
Would have been solid.
Fuck Bellator. Who gives a shit?
No, I mean, you do something like that, all of a sudden, Jack Hager's getting a call from Dana White.
You're getting the UFC, exactly.
So that would have been a good move. That's all I really have for that match. We talked about Britt Baker, Bea Priestley, and this is like I said. If we're going to talk about the full card, There were definitely a few weak spots, and there was something missing. I don't know. Maybe it is just a women's match where I'm actually psyched up before the match starts.
I think what would have maybe changed your mind is if that opening match, that Young Bucks match, was maybe just a little hotter. I think you've had a little bit hotter opening match, a real hot open, and then that's closing, fair. And you have that page pack, and then you have the women's match. I think that would have really tied it all together. And I think that that's why it felt so top heavy, and it was top heavy. And the Young Bucks normally, anything they're in, it was a good match. They put on a good match, but it wasn't a potential show stealer. Which, you look at a lot of your takeovers over the last couple of years. You know who they start the show with? Fucking NXT, Shock the System tag team match, and it's just a barn burner. And that, I think, is a big part of why every takeover just feels so hot and good, and it heats that crowd up. And I don't think that this match quite had the level of heat that match carried, but it could have. And I think in the future, you might see more of that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Also, it was a little harder for me to get into it. This is... fun little Mac story time. So
great.
We had Kenzie's parents come over to basically go out for an early dinner, and Kenzie had asked me before. She's like, "Is it okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay. Just they need to know by 6:00. I'm going to turn on a certain programming." And I said this to them. I'm like, we're not saying you have to leave at 6:00. But I'm turning this programming on no matter what. And I'm being very vague. And then Kenzie's like,
vague
it's not.
Being vague is the weirdest part about this.
Kenzie's like, it's not porn. I'm like, I didn't say that. And
I don't know. It's only their third pay-per-view. I don't know what they're going to do.
So, that happened. And, definitely when Awesome Kong cuts off Bea Priest's hair and starts smelling it, Kenzie's mom just makes this look like, Jesus Christ, and it's just I'm not apologizing for anything. But
just make eye contact and just turn the volume up.
Yeah, and then her dad just wanted to watch football, and I tried my best. Before I threw on the pre-show, it was
football Saturday. College.
Yeah, it was the end of the LSU and Alabama game, and I left it on until the finish.
Why watch LSU when you can watch SCU? Snuck it in. All right, now I get it. Now I get it. I'm getting it.
You're a stan now. You love them. So yeah, that may have slowed down the proceedings, but no, I think there was that Young Bucks match had good enough stuff in it. It wasn't on the level of most Young Bucks matches, which probably could have helped get the proceedings going. Could have helped that crowd not be as this was the least lively AEW crowd, especially for a pay-per-view.
I actually took issue with this crowd at multiple times. Certain chants, certain maybe just even individuals. All right, so. Nick Jackson, selling the leg injury, goes for the springboard and falls. And there's one dickhead in the second row trying to start a "you fucked up" chant. Get him the fuck out of here. Yeah. Fuck that guy. Fans who, this guy might have been a plant, whoever threw the drink on MJF.
But it worked out so well.
If it was a plant, that's genius. If it's not a plant,
fuck that guy, but also it worked.
If it's not a plant, it's awesome. That guy knows what needs to be done, and MJF's going to sell it.
He's still an asshole.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, I mean, in the end, we can take it for the positive that it created such a great moment. MJF he's rolling with it. He's like, I'm better than you. I don't even care. And it worked great. That doesn't change whether that guy's an asshole. That guy's an asshole.
I don't know. I think he's local talent. I think he showed up for extra work, had his portfolio, and they're like, and also right in the fucking corner, right there, right where he stops, I'm going to say he's a plant.
It's possible. There were people saying the security came in slow, but I don't know. They were running.
They were there. And that's the thing. I feel like it's kind of historically known that wrestling promotions kind of don't give security all the details when there's crowd work. And
true too.
And also, it's great. It's look at how many great moments have been created by fans throwing garbage over the railing. The Hulk Hogan turn and that classic gif of, I think it's Shawn Michaels gets hit in the head with a beer and he just swivels his hair back. And it's great. It's great. I think that fans should be allowed to throw beverages. That's my hot take.
If they were being
within reason.
If they weren't being smart marks the rest of the time, I don't think you get to have the same privileges of saying you know the business and you understand these wrestlers, and then also get to throw things in the heat of the moment. I don't think you get to do both.
Here's how it works. You can throw, and security is going to pull you, but the promoter can let you stay if they think that it was well timed and a good use of beverage.
This is a very dangerous territory we're trying to enter here with these new rules of crowd behavior.
Yeah, it's TV 14, bro.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
we're really gonna split hairs here.
It totally worked. MJF just turned it into $1 million shot, and yeah, I think by the time it's done, I had my nitpicks, I had the negatives. It doesn't matter if it's top heavy. The thing AEW does better than anybody else is they send the fans home happy. Even if it's, these freaking cultist level of fans that just love everything. That's not even the point. These guys have made the type of show that I'm not somebody who's just going to suck up to AEW and say, oh, you're doing a great job. They sent me home happy. The finish to the show was fireworks, and it was a good time, and that makes me excited for the next pay-per-view. Makes me also excited now that I've figured out how to use the TNT app on my Fire Stick instead of getting blocked on all my other devices. Now I'm actually going to be able to watch AEW each week, and this type of finish to a pay-per-view psychs me up to do that, and watch it quickly. I threw it on, as soon as I was done with my NFL podcast. It was just immediately like, let's watch Dynamite.
You know what I didn't realize until I pulled this up on Wikipedia about an hour ago? Do you know what the next pay-per-view is?
No.
The Rock and Wrestling Cruise.
Oh, yeah. That seemed far out.
Yeah. Well, I think they did it in it's January. So, yeah, they might
They keep having some gaps.
6 weeks. Maybe that's not too long.
It's WWE is putting us in a weird mindset where if it's not every couple weeks, it's weird.
Shit. Like they've just stopped doing every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas the Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea is scheduled for where is it? Fucking kidding me?
Is scheduled for
2020.
Yeah.
It's 2020, so it'll be January. I think it was January last time.
It took
January 20th to 24th.
Hey,
ooh, that is
my
a little
birthday. I should go on the cruise.
Sounds fun. I wanted to go last time, and I couldn't find anyone to go, and I'm also quite poor. So if anyone would like to donate to the Patreon we don't have, to send us on the Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea.
If we had a bigger audience, I'd get it started. We'll wait on that Patreon.
We'll go to 2021. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
We'll go the following year.
So we got through most of the topics for AEW. I don't think there's anything from the weekly shows that it really stands out that we need to talk about. I'm trying to think if there's anything that wasn't from the pay-per-view. No, the MJF was the biggest thing.
It is, and I think that'll be the biggest thing moving forward.
Luchasaurus came back. Never mind. There was one thing.
That was in my notes. I was scrolling through my notes. Because I did watch. I watched Dynamite at about 1 o'clock last night.
Nice.
And this morning, whatever. And I may have tweeted something in regards to Jurassic Express being the future. In
the past.
I was... You son of a bitch. I enjoyed that. I do think the biggest babyface in AEW, potentially all of mainstream pro wrestling, is Jungle Boy.
Quite possible.
I think
they did a lot to help that on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. And he has full backing from the fans. He is literally a babyface. He's like 21, 22. He's young.
The original babyface.
Prehistoric
times.
And he's just the ultimate babyface. He's great, and he can also go. And I enjoy him very much. Turns out my niece, who is an infant, is a big Marco Stunt fan. According to my brother, it's because they're the same size.
That's fair.
I do enjoy Marco Stunt.
Like your niece got a couple inches on Marco, but
and she's not walking; she's standing now. But
Marco's mostly on his back as well, so
it's a good point.
There's a lot of comparisons going on here.
A standing infant versus a lying Marco. I think that's a setup for 50-50 booking. No, I enjoy the stable. You know how I feel about Luchasaurus. The triple roundhouse kick The things he can do with a man who's what is he 6'8"?
6'7", yeah, around there, yeah.
I don't know. He's the he could be the best big man. Who I don't know how you qualify big man, but I'd qualify him as a big man in wrestling. Yeah. He could be the best. And Jungle Boy is the biggest babyface. And I think one of them is going to win the world title within 2 years.
That's a bold statement. Bold.
Yeah.
No, they're a good time. They definitely add something. I know at some point we're gonna have to finally get a podcast again with you and Wade, and you guys can fight it out because Wade has been very negative about Luchasaurus.
Well, Wade can go fuck himself. Let's not kick it to you, Wade. You fuck. Fucking talk about Luchasaurus like that. Fucking goddamn. I can't. All right, I'm too mad to continue. You gotta take the reins here. I'm gonna.
It's tough because
I'm gonna fume for a minute, and then it'll be fine.
The next part of the show was going to be just talking about the rest of wrestling, just whatever you've thought about any of the program. Obviously, we have the NXT going in Survivor Series ramp up of all these shows invading one another. You had even Bailey try to get a good segment on NXT. That was interesting. The debut of heel Bailey in NXT. Ooh. It was a good segment. It was fine. Cool.
I am enjoying how everything is ramping up. There's nothing that's turning me off other than Wade not appreciating Luchasaurus. But everything else they've done, I'm not sure what to make of the everything's just a triple threat match now. You know, I would have liked to have seen some combination of Raw and SmackDown.
I think Brock Lesnar is a singles match.
There's a few singles matches. There are. But I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I think that I wanted like we talked about this before, and I think when we initially talked about this, I was hoping for a NXT versus quote unquote main brand, and you have maybe like a 6-on-6, 3 Raw, 3 SmackDown versus 6 NXT.
Yeah.
Something like that. But I understand it. You know, Raw and SmackDown aren't necessarily supposed to be buddy either, but they kind of have the same stance. So I think you're going to see that at Survivor Series.
I also think by the time you're done, you know, this just is a numbers game. If NXT is going up against Raw and SmackDown, by the time you get to the 4th or 5th match on the undercard, all of a sudden that is just a bloodbath. Like the two brands going up against NXT's, you know, just kind of back up. You know, no, that's not a great plan. But Brock Lesnar against Rey Mysterio, so you get at least one singles match. The rest of the card hasn't been fully filled out, but I feel like we've seen enough one-on-one. Like we got to this point where maybe some people have enjoyed having, at least I know, you know, whoever ends up holding on to the belt, we have the potential for this kind of like, you know, rare match of, you know, a Seth Rollins versus a Shinsuke that, you know, it's like, it has no build, so you have to rely on the wrestling, and that's what we want from these two. So, you know, you get things like that make sense, but I think the triple threat, I love it. I think it's going to be easy for this to be just kind of a convoluted card, but that doesn't mean it can't be really good, and there can't be a few matches that just really stand out.
And you know where I think this is going to cross lines of it just being your typical this show versus this show is with the OC. I do like what they are doing with Balor. Well, again, I haven't seen NXT from yesterday, so if things change, let me know. But with Balor coming out to kind of back the OC in that match last week, you know, seeing this cross-show promotion of the club creates an interesting through line versus it just being, you know, black, white, and gray. So
they have a lot of you know, opportunities. You have for the women's Survivor Series elimination match. They really just have like, you know, 4 members of the SmackDown team and nobody else announced. So we're still gonna have you know, something to look forward to there. I think you know, Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Shayna Baszler is a good matchup. You know, the only one I foresee possibly losing is Bayley losing the belt. But you know, if the NXT Takeover of War Games is just you know, it doesn't add any sort of interbrand matches, then most likely Shayna Baszler will have a match title on line, and maybe she loses the belt right before. I don't know if they'll do something that risky. Doesn't seem like something they
I got to imagine that War Games partially is going to take on some elements of Survivor Series. I think that the people that are involved in Survivor Series are going to be affected at War Games. I'm not sure exactly who or how, but I feel like there is going to be this bleeding over of the two shows rather than we're just doing an NXT show and then tomorrow a Survivor Series.
Yeah, it's also, an interesting idea is that we've heard the kind of rumblings, people saying, could WrestleMania become a 2-day show? And just because of how long it's getting and you're in the same city, you could do something like that. This might be a good testing ground for having you have takeover the night before and you have the bleed over, and you can kind of figure out what does it look like when you're booking 2 nights of this and, all 3 brands. And that could be really helpful if that is something. I don't even know if that's something Vince has really looked at, but I have heard it from a lot of different places. Mostly it's the internet, so it could mean absolutely nothing. Well, it's an idea that's out there.
You know where I think the proving ground for this is in New Japan. I think that seeing how the G1 climax is handled, between A block finals, B block finals, and the finals, that has that big feel of it being all of these nights are match of the year candidate kind of matches. They all carry a lot of weight, and they're all just boom, boom, boom. And then I believe Wrestle Kingdom's a 2-day show.
I believe that's the change this year.
Next year?
Yeah, I believe that's happening.
I guess I got the PTO banked. I guess I can do that and go to my brother Ian's house for man's brunch as is tradition. I don't know how he's going to get 2 days away from
man's bed and breakfast. That's how you make it. Man's
weekend.
It's an interesting thing that they haven't even given us an inclination that they will do that, but it's possible. They have not fully booked both Survivor Series and War Games right now, so it's up in the air. It will be interesting to see exactly what they pick. All I know is the most of Raw and SmackDown were not going well until this NXT invasion. As we said in previous podcasts, NXT has come through with what I think is the best television right now in American wrestling. And
I agree.
They've allowed that to be used to improve the other 2 shows. I know there was some negativity about last SmackDown with opening up another 20-minute segment where it's Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns. Like, you're getting everything else. Like, let Vince put Roman on TV for a little while making fun of Baron Corbin.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off. And, I think with what Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio are doing, I want to see that match. It might be bad, but Wade brought it up last time he was on, like the potential for that to be like Brock versus Daniel Bryan, Brock versus Finn Balor, Brock versus AJ Styles. Like, that could really happen, and Rey Mysterio has basically been shit on through most of his return to WWE. That would be a good way to, like, okay, you bit the bullet on a lot of this. We're repaying you with, you're going to have a real match with Brock Lesnar that has some real heat.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for that. It's weird for it to be a Survivor Series match, but I thought the same thing with, Brock and Daniel Bryan last year, and they pulled it off. The year before with AJ Styles, thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Randomly throwing Finn Balor against him at Royal Rumble seemed weird. All those matches, it's almost like some of the lack of build allowed that to work better because they created a good big man, little man plan for what they were going to do in the ring, and they sold it like crazy. Any idea that Brock is not a team player, he will help make a good match when he respects the person across from him and you don't ask him to fall on tax. So we've seen that from Brock. He's like that is the possibility. I guess I'm almost more worried that there is real heat with Rey Mysterio, which means Vince might have some other plans for it. Like, I don't know, Brock just destroying Rey Mysterio in 4 seconds. So it's tough, but like, I don't know. There is the potential for it to meet up to those type of matches. And maybe when it is that sort of size dynamic, Vince might see that the same way I see it. And that might be helpful. He wants the type of match that did work between those last guys. It wasn't Vince getting out of their way. They just happened to want to put on the type of match that Vince like, yeah, no, I like that. I like traditional storytelling of big man, little man. So they have the potential for that. That's good. The rest of the card, it can become burdensome. There's a lot of bodies out there, but I'm going to look at it positively. I think, it's like, yeah, we've seen a few like dream matches one-on-one, but how many other opportunities you're going to get to have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke versus Roderick Strong.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, Becky, Bayley, Shayna Baszler. Tag match. Got the right champions right now.
Pumped for the tag match. That's going to be good. It's going to be a good time.
Viking Raiders, New Day, and Undisputed Era. That's going to be so good. And then obviously we have the Vince McMahon match of Team Rollins versus Team Roman, and it'll be fine. There's enough competitors in there. Still don't know who's on the NXT men's team yet, but should be fun to find out. I'm excited. I think wrestling is in a good spot right now. I'm excited to watch weekly television.
I'm having a great time.
That's interesting because it's been a while since that's been the case.
All right. So that being said, do you want me to cue the 45 seconds for us to both simultaneously ramble about Bobby Lashley and Lana and Rusev?
Sure.
Got your thoughts in mind?
No, but hit the button anyways.
Okay, go.
It's awful. They should stop it.
I think it's silly. I think that Rusev has done good work with what he's got. Shoving his wedding ring down Bobby Lashley's throat. Funny. Working through the kendo stick shots while still beating on Bobby Lashley. Reminiscent of Masa Saito outside of a fucking Burger King or McDonald's or whatever. Good shit. Other than that, I think that Lana's boring as shit. And I think that Bobby Lashley has no eyebrows.
That's true. They wrote this as poorly as possible. We knew it was a bad segment to begin with. They have passed all expectations for awfulness, and it's kind of amazing that they've
the 9 o'clock hour material.
This level of bad is kind of impressive.
Yeah, especially with how much good is surrounding.
Oh. Perfect.
Got it. All right.
So yeah, that's the end, and I think that's all we have right now for wrestling. We had to end it on a terrible note because we are the Making a Mark Wrestling Show on the Tell Me More podcast.
This could be a new segment.
It just 45
might be. Seconds of shit we can't stand, and then we just fucking leave.
That's it. We'll be back next week with more things we actually like, and obviously a few things we hate.
Wade, who doesn't like Luchasaurus, that fucking idiot.
That's all we got. Later, Marks.
Cameraman, I be shooting like I'm Zach in here.
Shooting like Zach, so you know I keep 4K.
Shark gas. Shooting at niggas for sport. I ain't the king of the court, but this money can make me afford. His chicken all over my fork. Nah, I ain't messing with the pork. Smoking nigga.